Good evening, everyone. Stick with us today as we go into part two of our two-part series with Wyatt. This is the Martin Memo.
The Martin Memo.
No, I would agree with that. And we had seen it. I watched the 2025 election results a week ago now, and
Yep.
obviously that was a horror fest. But
Yeah.
what I kept seeing, the reoccurring theme for every single election is what was the most important thing to you? And typically the top one and two issue, economy and affordability. And it's true, people are feeling that. And I think
Yep.
that is something that if Republicans want to maintain the Senate and the House, obviously
Yep.
they're going to have the presidency for about 3 more years. They
Yep.
need to focus on affordability. That needs to be their top priority. Do not stoop down to these other levels and care about the woke politics, if you will, and the identity
True.
politics. That we don't need that right now, right?
No,
We don't need that at all, period.
Yeah.
But we really need to address the affordability and those 50-year mortgages. I just heard about that recently.
Yeah.
That's just
Pretty
so
crazy.
dumb because people don't realize if you're paying a $200,000 house, right? Just for example,
Yeah.
your mortgage is probably, if you do a 50-year mortgage, you're going to be end up paying probably $400,000 to $500,000 of that original $200,000 house, and people don't really see that.
No.
They just see the lower month payments, and they say, you know what, boom, I'll take that, and they don't really pay attention and look into the numbers. So
Exactly.
that is my thoughts as well. As far as the Epstein files, I know they just released a whole bunch more documents, so I'm glad that's kind of coming out.
Yeah.
And the results, there's pretty much nothing new, despite them
Nothing, yeah.
releasing, I think, 20,000 new documents out there. So again, they need to keep that up, and just the transparency thing. For the most part, they have been pretty transparent. They need to do
They have.
better on some things. I'll
Yep.
admit that, but overall, this has been one of the more transparent
For sure,
administrations that we
absolutely.
have seen. Yes. So with that all being said, I am curious. We mentioned it before. Your thoughts on American meritocracy, and also please define that for the audience, because, like you said, a lot of people don't know what that even is. So.
No. So, one of kind of the rabbit holes I've been down for the past few months is the shifting of the American classes and meritocracy, meaning, what prestige changes, money changes, wealth, and what was deemed cool or wealthy 20 years ago is completely different today, right? 20 years ago, you could be set. You could go to Harvard, afford the education just fine, work at all these investment banks. You're making 200 grand a year with a 50K bonus. Now it's kids dropping out of high school and moving to San Francisco to work on a startup. I mean, the goalpost keeps changing because of money. Money changes. Where information changes, data's the new oil, right? We have AI. What I've seen over the past few months is completely remarkable. A lot of these young, just kids dropping, like, they see a failing high school education and system. It's a dinosaur. You can't compete. You're not vibe coding. You're not doing a lot of creative work. It's just monotonous math, yet we have calculators that can do that in 2 seconds. And you have to use your brain in ways that, in order to survive this economy, you have to be very creative. And the goalpost is shifting rapidly. Even Harvard, it's like, you look at Harvard, you went there, and it's an elite institution, but who can afford it? It's like 250 grand a year. So a lot of kids are just working on startups. They're doing content creation. They're moving in these like communes and urban areas and just vibing, just making music. And they're running VCs. They're 16-year-olds running venture capital firms, which is just insane. And I'm like, what? And some of them didn't even go to an Ivy League. So I think in order to stay ahead, it's important to follow, a lot of technology. I dropped out of computer science a year. Just really what didn't fit with my personality per se. And AI can do a lot of it. You can vibe code now. It's just like using AI to code. Like, we as humans are going to be managing the AI and deciding what's worth to work on and what isn't, really. But meritocracy can be a trap too, because being a millionaire is great if you work at a VC, but most of that cash isn't liquid. And many men in the trades have way more liquid cash than quote unquote millionaires. So I'm saying this because I think it's important for young people to have a lot of optimism for the future too as well. Even though things are changing very rapidly, and to have our hearts and our work with God, I think that's important too. There's a really good book I've been wanting to read. It's called The Meritocracy Trap. It's written by a professor 5 years ago. It basically just talks about basically how the billionaires keep shifting the goalpost. And like, you know, you could own a house in the 50s, not anymore. Going to Harvard would set you up for life, not anymore. You really have, you know, it keeps a lot of the middle class, lower class moving, and it's kind of how the world runs. But yeah, it's just an interesting topic I've been looking more into, if that makes sense. But if you have any questions, yeah, can chat about it.
You're right on that. And there's a really great book here, and you may have heard it, you may have read it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
right here. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes,
And
I've
one
read
of
it.
the
It's a great book.
Yes, absolutely. But one of the biggest messages that they put it is the difference on how poor dads and families raise their children. It's all about saving, saving, saving.
Yeah.
And then rich dads raise their, hey, take risks, invest in the stock market, do all these different things. And it's just two different sets of dynamic. And it almost ties into exactly what you're talking about. So
It
I
does.
really do encourage people to read that book, because it is filled with just valuable lessons, and to encourage people to take risks instead of just, you know, going on your $2,000 vacation that you might do once a year, right? You know, I think that it's filled with good messages, and it ties into exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the book that I've read it. You know, it's Robert Kiyosaki is very smart, and you know, a lot of people become billionaires based off of leverage, and the banks are looking for people who can pay them back with a track record. A lot of millionaires they'll take in a lot of equity from companies, leverage against it, and sell or short it, and it works out. But if it doesn't, but a lot of these people who are doing it already have the confidence that they're going to like make it. If you're at that level, already thinking about how you're going to leverage equity in a company, I mean,
Yeah.
you're definitely probably gonna make it. So
Oh yeah. Big time.
yeah,
Big time. I am curious that one of the final serious questions, and then we'll go into a couple lighthearted
yeah,
responses here, or lighthearted questions rather. Startups. You said you've had a lot of experience on startups. You just went to the Philippines a couple months for a startup. Tell us some of the background on the startups and everything that you've been doing to explain to us what that all entails.
yeah. I'd be happy. Glad you asked. I didn't really know about startups in high school, and no one really ever talked about it. You know, I heard about it a few times, but you're just not really in the space. I was in Midwest Wisconsin. Most of the activities happen in Silicon Valley. So yeah, it was at my freshman year at college. I started to get into startups, and I originally went into computer science to found a startup with my tech background, because most startups are, you know, tech based. Um, so yeah, it's been quite a journey. I've worked with a lot of really smart people from India. So like, we created this ed tech called Ad Astra, not Ad Astra, Teenpreneurs, but it was based on Elon Musk's experimental school for students, which was very successful. And a lot of these, you know, entrepreneurs from India took the same courses, and they said it was groundbreaking, nothing like their high school education. So we basically created this platform, learned a lot from it, had to host a website for teenpreneurs, you know, made the graphics and stuff, and had a blast with that. And, you know, it was a fun project for a while. And now I'm focused on Sparrow Industries, which is like a satellite startup I'm working on with a founder from Brazil. We'll see how it goes. But I had no clue about this. In Brazil, there's the South Atlantic anomaly. I don't know if you've heard about this. I had no clue, but like, the internet doesn't really work there. Satellites can't pass through. So, like, I'm like with my founder, I'm like, well, let's see if we can make something. So we're gonna see where it goes. I applied to the NASA. I don't know. Their materials. They have materials you can test, and we're gonna see if we can create these shields. Still in Wisconsin, but I'll be down in the LA, San Francisco area in a few weeks. The move just makes sense with everything I'm involved in, to be honest. So, um, the beauty of startups is you really learn how to work with a team. You learn how to be resourceful. You learn how to explore what's in your heart and what you want to work on, really. It's not from a corporation. And it's your own kind of leverage. Corporations can be great and have great communities, and that money can be used as leverage for your startup. I mean, there's so many routes you can go with it. Some startups bootstrap, use your own money. Some go for VCs, but kind of teaches you how to pitch, talk with people, network, and really be creative. And I think that's valuable for a lot of our youth for sure. Not only teach you that, but like you just meet people all over. It's crazy people I've met. It's just like some from Brazil, India, Philippines. Still talk to them today. We're still all friends working on projects online, and that's really where the future I think is going to go, is startup heavy and a lot of quick innovations with small teams. Those will be the next billion-dollar companies. And these people are willing to move to San Francisco on a dime, sleep on a mattress with their laptop, and just take a shot at the American dream, which is techno-feudalism now. Most of the billionaires are in tech. All the money's in tech and data. And I'm optimistic in some ways, but you have to be careful with a lot of these billionaires. I don't think they serve a lot of the interests of the American people overall, and I think that's kind of heartbreaking. So. And with OpenAI, he went from a nonprofit and Congress saying, I'm doing this because I love this, to creating a for-profit, which Elon Musk had some issues about, which I would too. That's interesting.
Gotta love Sam Altman. I believe that's who you're referencing.
Yep. That's the guy.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you've had just amazing experiences, and apparently I need to get on your level. I don't know what I'm doing here, but no, that's
I wish
awesome.
I had a podcast. Like,
well,
that would be my bread and butter, to be honest. Well, we can just teach each other.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I tell you what, you are welcome on here anytime.
Thank you.
Before we wrap this up, we have 2 questions for you, and we're going into the fun questions now. So,
yeah,
2028 election. Who is your pick on the Democrat and Republican side to lead the ticket?
Great question. I think for the Democrats, I don't think it's going to be Newsom. I think it's going to be a socialist. I do. With the way the party's headed, we have inflation, debt. I think socialism is unfortunately entering into people's temptations and minds with where we're at. That may be AOC. I think at this point, I wouldn't leave that out of the question for 2028 for the Democrats. And for the Republicans, I think J.D. Vance probably has the strongest, definitely lead. But if the infighting keeps happening with the neocons, we have Groypers, we have all these divisions now in the conservative movement, I think it could be someone who's truly more American first than even Vance or Trump. I love Vance, but, I know a lot of people are questionable about his ties with Palantir, Peter Thiel. A lot of the billionaires and a lot of the middle class wants to be represented too. So I think we're going to see both parties keep getting further apart for sure in what they represent. So
the horseshoe theory, left and right. Yes, I would agree with that. One thing that I do want to say before I answer that question as well,
absolutely,
is there's people like Nick Fuentes, and I don't know if you've listened to any of his content, but that is kind of my fear, because if someone like Nick Fuentes ends up taking over the Charlie Kirk spot in reality, because that's kind of what's happening. That is not a good thing for the party, because he has pretty out there. Granted, some of his material is good. I will give him that. But overall, that is not the type of person that you want representing the party in this gender gap. That was another theme that we just had seen in the 2025 election here. If he ends up being more the face of the conservative party, that gender gap, I promise you, is only going to get worse and worse and worse. And that is not something, or that is not somebody that I would be comfortable necessarily with leading the party. I think that's only going to do more harm than it is good.
You mentioned that. I think, if Vance wants to keep his spot, I think he needs to communicate clearly how every action is truly American first. I think, because I do like him a lot. I think if he did that, that would be very productive for the side and win back a lot of the stray voters. I think if he communicates very clearly on that message, he will be just fine. So that's my only advice to him.
I'd agree. I would say that. And then my other thing is his foreign policy. From what I had seen, is he seems a little more on the isolationist side. So I would encourage him to kind of take almost the Trump approach. I think the Trump approach
Yeah.
on foreign policy is one of the better.
Yeah.
Peace through strength. It's kind of what
Peace through
Ronald
strength.
Reagan had tokened. I believe he should take up more of that instead of just almost abandoning some of our allies, which it had
Sure.
seemed like he was doing that approach
Yeah.
with like the signal chat that had been leaked out
Yeah.
and among some of his other policies. So that would be
Yes,
my
no,
only.
that's a fair point. I agree.
On that note, though, I think you're right. I think honestly, AOC would probably be the face. I think Gavin Newsom is peaking too early, and I believe he's too fake in my
Yeah.
opinion. People
Yeah.
can read right through it because he's almost taking the Trumponian
True.
look to him lately with all his social media rants and all that annoying junk that he's trying to peddle. So I don't think that's going to bode well for him. I really do see an AOC with how socialist the party's going, and maybe someone moderate as like the VP, like a Gretchen Whitmer, or maybe
Sure.
like a Wes Moore or someone along those lines to kind of balance it out and see it as a balanced ticket. So that would kind of be my guess as far as the Republican nomination. As long as the economy doesn't tank, as long as we don't have some sort of crisis, Vance is going to lead the ticket, and I think that Marco Rubio would not be the VP in that scenario. I think he has a very good shot at becoming the VP if things bode well and play out like I think they should. So finishing up that question, my second one and the final one of today is, do you have any future Congress ambitions, or where do you see yourself maybe in the next, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years?
Great question. I've thought about it a lot. A lot of people like in my class were like, "You're gonna be next president." That's what they voted for me in the yearbook, and I'm very humbled and honored that they looked up to me that way. It means a lot, and I would hate to waste my shot and what they saw in me, and to pay it forward. I would love to have a position. I don't know how heavy though. I've thought about starting off in the House. That's probably where I would start, just to see how some of the government works. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole I want to go. I really do have a creative mind, and to focus on like politics all the time might drive me a little crazy, but in a good way. I mean, politics is great to be involved, but I dropped a single the other day and music, and I'm kind of involved with a lot of things. I'm like, oh well, I'm still young. Maybe I want to be more of a public figure, an artist or an actor that's neutral and kind of fun but genuine, people can relate to, and I think that would be great. Bringing maybe more Christianity to LA or San Francisco. And, a lot of people have questioned me for making the move, which is understandable. But I think as Christians, we can definitely spread in places we don't even expect, or more secular areas, because we need that light. So next 15 years, definitely startups, movies, creative work, politics, possibly. So stay tuned. I'll have to update you, Zach.
All right. Well, I look forward to that. Maybe you'll be the next second coming of Ronald Reagan, because I believe he started in the Midwest. He ended up moving to California. He was an actor. A lot of people don't know that, as well as a broadcaster, a sports broadcaster. So maybe that's going to be your future. But I love to see it.
You never know.
I do have one final question. It's a fun one, and then we'll go ahead and end this. What is your favorite kind of ice cream?
Oh, that's a good question, because ice cream is my favorite dessert. Are you reading my mind, Zach?
I guess I am.
I'm not sure. I would say cookie dough. Yeah, vanilla's good. The chocolate chip chunks are tasty. You get into like a lot of Ben and Jerry's. There's just too much, like, just overloaded with flavor. I like a nice balance. Like, you can't just load ice cream. It weighs like 5 pounds when you carry the package. It's like, what is going on? It's like 2,000 calories. And yeah, that's my choice. A good balance. What about you?
I go back and forth. I could see myself really just eating a tub of chocolate mint ice cream. Think that's always a good choice. But cookie dough is solid. Birthday cake, that's really good, especially if you get the chunks in there. So I think ice cream is probably my favorite dessert as well. Something else we can agree on.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, I tell you what, Wyatt, it has been a pleasure having you on, and I think we need to have another podcast here in the near future.
Absolutely.
Maybe this time from LA, I guess. So, but yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Zach. Truly honored to be on here. Good luck with the podcast. You have some awesome people on. Be happy to hop on anytime. So
yeah. Well, we appreciate that, and we'll take you up on that offer. Well, folks, that's all we have in store for today. Join us on Friday as we go over a surprise topic. Share our thoughts on X. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Martin Memo. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Now, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is The Martin Memo. The Martin Memo.